Hey guys, we've got some really exciting Wheel of Time news. The Wheel of Time Season 3 has officially wrapped filming, and there's some really fun teasers to go along with that. And we might have some hints about Season 4 finally being greenlit. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is Unraveling the Pattern. I'm Lauren. Book 4 and Season 3 spoilers ahead. Check the description for more info or watch at your own risk. Here's the official Season 3 wrap announcement teaser.
That's a wrap on Season 3.
That is a wrap on Season 3.
That's a wrap on Season 3.
And I'm very, very excited for the audience to see it.
It's going to be big.
For such a short teaser, there's actually a surprising number of Season 3 Easter eggs and secrets. While this teaser really only has 5 shots to analyze, there are actually 2 versions. The Twitter teaser is lower quality, but shows more of the background. The Instagram version is higher quality, but crops out the background. At first glance, it appears that all but one of these interviews were shot in the same location.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
I actually think Marcus's interview was shot in or near the same set as the others, but just maybe at a different time of day, possibly outside instead of inside, or with different lighting. You can see the brazier in the background in these shots with Aviendha, Rand, and Lan. Now compare it to this prop behind Perrin. They appear to me to have similar shapes, and are held up by what look like wooden or metal legs, like a tripod. The legs on this one behind Perrin actually first made me think of spears, but I think they're part of the brazier prop. If you look very closely at the brazier behind Perrin, you can see somebody moving behind it, so I think this line is more or less the top of the brazier. Obviously the braziers in these other shots are lit, and they do feel a bit shorter to me than the one behind Perrin, but I think it's the same general area. Look at the texture of the walls behind Aviendha and Perrin. They look like natural rock, like something you'd see in the Aiel Waste. Look at this sort of crack or fissure in the wall here. If we brighten the shot with Aviendha, doesn't this line seem like it could match? Maybe this edge in Aviendha's shot is the thing from Perrin's shot over here. There are pieces of wood or branches on the ground around both of these areas as well. Also, this object behind Perrin looks to me to be either like a woven basket or possibly a drum. We know that the Aiel use drums in battle. My guess is that all of these interviews were shot recently in South Africa on a set that was built to be part of the Aiel Waste. WatchSeries.com reported that Aiel tents were seen in various locations, and at Cape Town Film Studios, production filmed on a set that looked like a living area built into rocky terrain. This is probably part of the Cape Town Film Studio set. My guess is that this is possibly Ruidion, or more likely something like an Aiel settlement, like Cold Rock's Hold. However, this set with Perrin does also sort of resemble the Falm sets and locations from Season 2. I just have a hard time believing that any of the characters will be in Falm near the end of Season 3, or really in Season 3 at all. Also, on closer inspection, Falm has brick walls, while this background feels more like a natural rock formation. So my bet is that these are Aiel Waste sets in South Africa, where they've been finishing up filming Season 3 for the last few months. But if this is a set for scenes in the Aiel Waste, why is Perrin here? My guess is that this is just the place where they set up these interviews, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get more clips in the coming months from these same interviews. But it doesn't mean Perrin will be here on this set in the actual show. Remember this promotional video from Season 2? It showed Aviendha and Bane and Chiad in the accepted test chamber set in the White Tower, but obviously those characters were nowhere near the White Tower or this chamber in Season 2. They were likely just shooting these interviews in Jordan Studios in Prague. I think something similar is going on in this new teaser, but in South Africa. While we don't yet know all of the story details for Season 3, we do know that Season 3 will be following much of the storylines from Book 4, The Shadow Rising. There was a recent leak that was revealed by WatchSeries.com that the 7th episode in the 8-episode season will be entitled Golden Eyes, which is very likely a Perrin-centered episode that will take place mostly in the Two Rivers. And an even more recent leak from WatchSeries.com revealed that the Season 3 finale, Episode 8, is very likely going to be called He Who Comes with the Dawn, which is probably centered around Rand, as well as Moraine, Lan, Aviendha, and the Aiel in the Waste. I know from personal experience that the Two Rivers set was completely rebuilt in Prague for shooting the Book 4 storyline for Season 3, because I got to go there to tour the Two Rivers set during Season 3 production last year, just before Season 2 aired. I haven't yet released my detailed vlog about that trip, I promise it is coming eventually, but when we visited the Two Rivers, I got a ton of detailed footage of the sets and props. Take a look at this brazier in the Two Rivers. They had a bunch of these in the village, all properly functioning. This prop is very different from the brazier prop in this new teaser. Interestingly, while we were there, Prime Video specifically asked us not to film certain details of the sets. There were big signs in certain places in big bold letters that said something like, "Do not film here." I had to be careful about where I pointed my phone camera as I eagerly recorded what was there. But then after the trip, Prime Video provided footage for us that they shot with their professional camera crews, and they told us we could use any of their provided footage in our own videos. Surprisingly, there were a few shots from Prime Video that show hints about the Season 3 Two Rivers storyline that I wasn't allowed to film, but I figure I can show these clips because they gave them to me. Skip to the timecode on the screen now if you'd like to avoid these specific Season 3 story spoilers and video clips. So, just outside of the village set, there were some temporary tents placed where we got some catering and could take photos. They also provided heavy boots for us so that we could avoid getting mud from the Two Rivers set all over our shoes, because it had rained pretty hard earlier that day and it even kept raining while we were there for a bit. They had a Wheel of Time sign where we posed for photos, but just to the right, our left, was the Two Rivers set, built right into a real quarry somewhere outside of Prague. As you can see here in this provided Prime Video shot, with fellow Wheel of Time YouTuber Nablus posing, you can just make out a sort of fence made of sharpened wooden logs, and you can see a bit of a lookout tower that's built inside of the walls around the village. You can see in this footage from Season 1, Episode 1, that there are no walls or palisades around the village. As a matter of fact, I believe Pat and Fane entered the village from this same location where we got to enter, but where Pat and Fane just rode his wagon straight into the village, now there's a gate there. This is even more clear from this clip from Episode 1 of Season 1, where you see the group leaving the Two Rivers. This is more or less the same place where the gate now stands. Most, if not all of the village was burned down in Season 1, and so they had to rebuild the Two Rivers. Not just the set, which they did rebuild, but in the story itself, the village would have needed to be rebuilt. So I'm guessing they intentionally rebuilt palisades or a defensive wall around the village to protect them from future Trolloc attacks. Apparently the Two Rivers is now a gated community. We were not allowed into the village or to see what was inside until a man let us in through the gate. He just so happened to be the same actor who was in one of the episodes in Season 2 as an innkeeper. Again, I couldn't film some of this, but Prime Video provided these shots. The camera is standing on or near the steps of the front of the Winespring Inn in this shot, but it's looking back towards the village entrance. You can clearly see the wall, parts of the gate, and more of the watchtower here. Here's another shot from the point of view of the Winespring Inn, where the tower is clearly visible. Also, something we could film were these dead Trolloc dummies that were laid out near the steps of the Winespring Inn. Now, these were likely just put there for publicity reasons, but I think it's very clear that we will be getting the Battle of the Two Rivers storyline in Season 3. Anyway, I know that was quite the tangent, but I think it's safe to assume that Perrin's storyline will not fully match up with Rand's storyline. And if Marcus Rutherford was in South Africa shooting parts of the last 2 episodes, he probably wasn't actually shooting scenes that will take place in the Aiel Waste. I suppose there's a very slight chance that Perrin will experience dreams or something, where he's in the Waste or is possibly witnessing certain events with Rand from the World of Dreams, but I think it's safe to say Perrin will physically be in the Two Rivers at the end of Season 3. Okay, enough about the background details and sets. Let's talk about the clues from the costumes and makeup. Aside from being just ridiculously good looking, Rosamund Pike is clearly wearing what appears to be a sort of Aiel Wise One costume. It's interesting to note that she's not wearing blue. Even at the start of Season 2, when Moiraine thought she was stilled, she still had hints of blue in her clothing. I believe this is the first time where we see Moiraine wearing no blue at all, further suggesting that she's separating herself from the White Tower and allying herself with the Dragon Reborn at all costs. Actually, it looks to me like all of the characters aside from Perrin are wearing browns and grays, clothing appropriate for the Aiel Waste. Yes, Lan's costume is still the sort of warder gray that he always wears, but he does appear to be wearing a sort of cloth that can be used to cover his face from the sun and harsh elements of the Waste. But back to Moiraine. She's also wearing a sort of shawl, which feels very reminiscent of the Aiel Wise One's costumes in the books, or even similar to the shawls of the Aes Sedai from the books. The shawl can likely also be used as a type of face cover. I'm guessing she's wearing pants, but this could be a skirt as well. And it looks like she has her same trusty belt knife that she had in previous seasons. I also believe Moiraine is wearing a necklace. The most intriguing detail to me about Moraine's costume is the sort of snake-like pattern on her blouse. I love that she's probably wearing Aiel Wise One clothing, but that it still has a refined look to it. It not only speaks to Moraine's noble roots, but it also implies that the Aiel aren't as primitive or savage as the rest of the world would assume. They can make complex clothing and weapons and do detailed leather work, which I'll discuss more in a bit. But the main reason why this snake-like pattern is intriguing to me is because it hints to me that we might still see some version of the snakes and or foxes in the show. Some people have speculated that Moraine will enter only one redstone doorframe instead of two, but either way, this is a subtle hint to me that the snakes, or Aelfinn, are a real possibility in the show in some form or another. Finally, related to this snake or lizard print, Rafe posted this on Instagram along with the Season 3 wrap video. The caption reads, "This incredible cast and crew survived multiple strikes, heat waves, and a two-step snake to bring you Season 3 of the Wheel of Time, and it's our best yet." I had to look this up, but a two-step snake is a creature from the books that lives in the Aiel Waste. It's so venomous that you would die from its bite before you could walk 2 steps. Now, it's very likely that the show has a scene that's similar to the moment in the books where Aviendha shows a two-step snake to Rand, but I like the idea that this could also be a hint about the snakes and or foxes behind the redstone doorframes. Moving on, there's not much to notice with Perrin's costume except that he appears to be wearing some extra bits of leather, which could imply that he's doing some blacksmith work or that he has some leather layers as a sort of additional protection or armor for battle with Trollocs. If we compare this clothing to the leather he was wearing in some promotional image for Season 1, where he's shown doing blacksmith work, it really doesn't match up, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Perrin's hair and beard also seem longer than in previous seasons. Also, it doesn't look like he's wearing a wedding ring.
No ring?
Maybe he's just not wearing it for the interview, but I think there's a real possibility that Perrin will meet Fael this season, and that she will encourage him to finally give up his wedding ring. Remember that in Season 2, Perrin struggled with the idea of giving up the ring, and then his choice to keep the ring gave Dane Bornhold the clues he needed to identify Perrin as someone from the Two Rivers. I'm sure we'll see the direct consequences of that choice in Season 3. I think we'll get some sort of meaningful moment in Season 3 where he'll leave the ring behind, possibly at Layla's grave or something, and I think Fael will be involved in some way. Fael might also encourage him to keep growing out his beard too, just like in the books. This also doesn't necessarily mean anything, but Perrin's eyes don't appear to be yellow in this interview. As for Aviendha, she's more or less the same as she was in Season 2, but her leather vest is different. Clearly the Aiel do some very intricate leather work. Notice the sort of leaf design on her chest? I love that the Tree of Life design has been subtly, or not so subtly, integrated into the Aiel costumes so far in the show. Rand's costume feels both simple and refined at the same time, which is an awesome choice. He is the Dragon Reborn, but he's also a simple sheep herder. He's basically a king and a chief of chiefs, but he's also just a simple wetlander who was born of a maiden. He's both nothing special and the most important person in the world. I feel like this coat and his undershirt really show that dichotomy nicely. The collar feels a bit like his fancy clothing from Season 2, while also feeling simple and earthy. I can't tell if these red marks on his coat and sleeve are blood or just a rust-like color design for blending in with the waist. I will note that he doesn't clearly have any visible tattoos on his wrists or hands that we can see. If Rand is going to be marked by the dragon tattoos on his arms, which I think is a very strong possibility in the show, I think they'll move them slightly higher up his arms so that they can cover them up when he wears long sleeves. This will save a lot of time and money during production of future seasons, while still giving them the ability to show off his tattoos as needed when he removes his sleeves or his shirt. Along with this teaser, Josha Stradowski also released this Instagram video announcing the Season 3 wrap. You can see in this video that he looks to be wearing the same shirt that he has in the interview clip. He mouths, "It's a wrap," but otherwise there really isn't any discernible sound other than the wind. It looks to me like he has some sort of makeup on his face that looks like a cut or a bruise. I wonder if he'll get in a fight with a certain Forsaken or possibly with Couladin. I could be wrong, but his hair feels a bit shorter in this clip that he posted versus the hair in the interview, but that could just be the lighting or the wind throwing me off. Obviously Rand's hair is longer than it was in Season 2, but not by much. Finally, I love that he pans the camera over to the sun. The sunset implies that Season 3 has wrapped, or it could represent the dawn. After all, he is he who comes with the dawn. The only other minor things of note is that Josha says he's very excited for the audience to see Season 3, but it almost seems like he gets cut off, like he was going to say more than that. I wonder what he was going to say. And then Daniel Henney says Season 3 is going to be big. I can't wait to find out just how big it really is going to be. One last minor thing about Season 4 of The Wheel of Time. Thanks to our good friend Kevin Angus and a few other amazing detectives on Twitter, I believe there are some compelling hints from the official Wheel of Time Twitter account teasing that Season 4 will be getting the green light. very soon. I'm not going to go into all of the insane details. I'll leave a link to Kevin's amazing findings in the description, but I will say there are some really interesting secrets hidden in recent tweets from the official Wheel of Time account, which we fans lovingly call the Tweeter of Chaos. You might look at these clues and think they're just a bunch of nothing, but they hid similar clues in their tweets way back before Season 3 was greenlit as well, and they all proved to be intentional. The Tweeter of Chaos tends to hide obscure hints and clues over a long period of time, and sleuths like Kevin put them together to decipher their meaning. So, among other things, the Tweeter of Chaos recently followed exactly 173 people. I was lucky enough to be one of them. The number 173 is the hexadecimal code for the color green. And if you think that's crazy, they did use hexadecimal codes before in other tweets. And since then, 3 different official tweets have had the word light capitalized in them. Some people think that the 4th tweet with the word light in it will be the official announcement that Season 4 is getting the green light. I really think this is true. Now that Season 3 has wrapped filming, I do think we'll be getting a Season 4 greenlight announcement in the coming months. But let's remember to be patient. What do you think of this insane Season 4 greenlight theory? And what do you think about the details I uncovered in this small Season 3 wrap teaser? As always, thanks to my awesome Patreon and YouTube supporters. And thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, let the dragon ride again on the winds of Prime.